Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Letitia. I hope that you are doing well. I just thought I would come on real quick to just share some things that I'm selling at the farmers market this year and to talk a little bit about, you know, just selling in general and trying to meet a need in the community that may be experiencing food apartheid and or lack of access to food. Look at there's that monarch again. I don't know if it's the same one, but seems like they frequent the garden this year, and I love it. Zinnias tend to attract them, and I absolutely love that they're here. I haven't seen a lot of black swallowtails this year, though. That's typically one that frequents the garden as well. But yeah, so this year at the farmers market, I just wanted to give you a list of stuff that I have sold at the farmers market and that did well. And this isn't, this is after researching and just figuring out, what is everybody saying about what is marketable to people and profitable to farmers as far as what they are selling at the farmers market. It's so easy to get in the habit of wanting to provide everything that you possibly can, and I'm so guilty of that, and I'm learning that it's just impossible. It's impossible for you to do that as much as you want to. There are just tons of things that you can grow, but if you don't grow enough of a product, or if you grow too much of a product, you can experience some loss either way. You leave money on the table, and then you have to pack up a lot of stuff and take it back home with you. And I'm sure that's one of the most common remarks about the market is, people don't want to come back home with a bunch of food. They want to be able to sell as much as possible to earn money, right? And so they can continue to build their businesses, expand their businesses, and provide food to the community. But we also, it's so tempting to get into, just wanting to try different things. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't, because what I'm also finding out too is what's profitable in one area may not be as profitable for me. And one of those crops that I definitely feel like gets I don't know, it's just people aren't too crazy about it, at least in my area. And no one has asked about them, and that is a cucumber. And cucumbers apparently are very, very profitable. I mean, every time I look at videos and on YouTube or do research, otherwise, cucumbers is listed as a profitable crop. And I couldn't get very many people to buy cucumbers. I mean, they were interested in the white ones, right? I grew some Armenian cucumbers this year, and I think because it was different, I had some people pick up on my roadside stand the Armenian cucumber, but the typical green Boston pickling, unless you meet somebody that cans a lot, it seems like in this area, my experience has been that they're not really that excited about cucumber. One thing that I grew a lot of up until this year, and I'm just beating myself up about it. I grew about 7 plants on average for the past 3 years of okra, and had way too much okra for us, my family, way too much. So I was walking door to door in my neighborhood and found 3 other neighbors that love okra. They're originally from the South. And so they, just were excited to get okra, right? They didn't know it could be grown, number one, here. And that there were different varieties of okra. And I love okra plants in themselves are kind of interesting, but the flowers on an okra is gorgeous. I mean, they're part of the hibiscus family, and the flowers really do look like hibiscus flowers, and they are gorgeous, okay? But they do really well in my climate. I'm in Kentucky zone 7A, because man, we go through some drought weather. I mean, when I tell you it gets dry here and hot, and then all of a sudden we're just dumped, buckets and buckets of rain just comes out of nowhere, and then for 3 weeks we don't see anymore. It's crazy. But okra, people ask so much for okra, and I didn't realize there were some people that really like that. So next year I'm gonna grow more okra. At least I'm gonna get back to the 7 plants. I only had 3 in the garden this year, and it just wasn't enough. Good morning, hi, apartment 4. Not love the knowledge you are gaining. Keep up the thank you, and I just want to share it. I mean, everybody's trying to learn, or interested, curious, and that's how I learn, right? Other people that are not scared to share or don't mind sharing. So I just want to do the same. Thank you so much, apartment, for Miss MB. Good morning. Yeah, I'm here. So I'm just talking about some of my experience of selling at the market and things that I've sold at the market. But so one, people don't really, in my area, have not requested a cucumber, and it's really hard to get rid of cucumber. But okra, it surprised me this year. Surprised me. This is my first year at the market as a market manager and as a vendor. And so that really surprised me. Tomatoes is like everybody's like, you got to sell tomatoes, but guess what? Every farmer has tomatoes. So how do you set yourself apart? Good question. What I found out was, and I don't mind sharing, is that tons of people want green tomatoes. Okay, ripe tomatoes are great and awesome, but green tomatoes, people scoop. I mean, one market, I had at least 25 green tomatoes. And I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but you have to remember that I'm a small scale urban farm. I farm on less than a quarter of an acre, and this year was my first year going at it. And the green tomato that I used was not the Aunt German green. Those are literally green when they're mature. I did not use those. I just used the mortgage lifter. It was my first year growing the mortgage lifter, and I just they got a pretty nice size, and I harvested those before they turned or as they were turning, or and took them with me, and those sold quicker than the ripe big tomatoes. So, and I had yellow ones, I had red ones, and people wanted, you got any more green tomatoes? I'm like, no ma'am, I'm actually out, I'm so sorry, but I'll be back next week, and they'll come back for them. And so I was very surprised by that as well. So next year I will grow more just to have green tomatoes available. But tomatoes is a very profitable crop, and people love tomatoes and can't wait for the season. But what I also found out was around the end of August into, August, September, no, I would say mid-September ish, people are done buying tomatoes. Like they might buy one, but they're not buying them in bulk like they would like, and by bulk I mean at least 2 or 3, right? They're not doing that. In mid-September, people kind of tapped out on tomatoes, and so am I. Like I'm just like, okay, I don't want to see another tomato. Just seeing them, I'm just like, because I've just eaten so many. And I'm not even a really big tomato fan. Now, the tomato that I really, really, really love is any tomato in the garden, because it just tastes so much better than the store. We all know that. But the black cherry tomato will always be in my garden. The black cherry tomato is so juicy and crunchy. And I mean, you just get this burst of flavor when you bite into it. And I don't know if anybody else has had that experience, but that has been mine, and it will be in my garden every single year. And it is the one cherry tomato that everybody asks about and they want it. Okay, so I will also grow black cherry tomatoes. Good morning. Send those cucumbers my way, and happy for your success. Well, thank you. I mean, just a little bit, just dabbing my toe, and this is my first year at the market, so I'm liking it. It is quite a bit of work though to be able to harvest and set up everything the next day. And maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. We can talk about it now. So I just real quick, I do not have a walk-in cooler or an extra refrigerator to store crops in until the market. So I literally have to harvest the night before or the morning of for it to be really fresh, maybe 2 days before. but I really don't like that, especially with certain crops like okra. And if I was growing greens, which I did not grow and sell at the market this year, but again, people, that's one of the other crops. People ask for collards and kale all the time, and I had none, right? I even tried to find other farmers that may be able to either sell me some or put them on a consignment, and I just sell for them at the we work that out. But every farmer that I was able to reach out to already, committed to a farmer's market, selling their stuff, and they're out. So, and then you have to, the season too. You have to kind of pay attention to that, but some people can grow collards and kale and other greens year round and do a really good job at that. But you also have to have the infrastructure to do that, I think. And so anyway, that's a whole nother topic, but that's one of the crops I wish I had more of, was collards and kale to sell at the market. Hey UT, good morning. Black cherry is considered yard royalty. I love that. Yes, I feel the same way. It is just, they're very delicious. And I have probably a good, 10 black cherry tomato plants in my garden, and it's a lot of picking, but cherry tomatoes are great. What I do think is, like, pricing stuff is the hardest thing, and maybe we should do I don't know if I want to do another video on pricing, because I'm still trying to figure it out. Check with your local extension offices, other farmers that have experience at the market. Do your research and figure out what you should price things at. Give things a test trial. You might have to switch some stuff up next year or mid-season or whatever. But I priced my cherry tomatoes. I have a pint, those little green pint baskets, at $3, and they sold, especially the black cherry. I had people come back and get 2 or 3. I would do 3 or 2 for $5, and that seemed to work out. Oh yeah, that little, I caught that little jive right there that people be doing, the something for something. And I think Gary from the Rustic Garden always talks about that with his nursery plants too, that he sells at the market. But that works, y'all. That works. Sell it for one price, so you can get 2 for maybe a discounted price, and that really does that helps sales a lot. And so I can get rid of a lot of things like that. And then on top of that, it's quality, it's fresh. One thing I did not do well this year about is cleaning everything before the market, but that doesn't seem to bother people. And I'm not telling you not to wash off all the produce that you have. I mean, I dust the dirt off a little bit, if it's really dirty, but a lot of the cherry tomatoes and things, especially, like, I did not wash off before I took to the market. I just harvested straight from the garden, and they went straight into the little pint baskets, and then everything else the same, and people didn't mind it. I always share, if people say, did you grow this? I'm like, what are they really asking? And so I would say, yes, I grew it, and it's pesticide free. I grow all of my stuff naturally. Matter of fact, I harvested it this last night or this morning. So it's fresh out the garden. You probably should wash that before you eat it. And they're like, oh no, the dirt is the best. I had somebody say that before. But they respect that. So I think it's a great thing to consider, whether or not you wash all your produce off or not. If I was pulling root crops like carrots and beets and things like that, yes, I think, it's too much dirt, but if you're just picking them off the vine, maybe they haven't hit the ground very much, I think it's okay. But do what you feel like you should do. And Miss MB says, had to do yard work this morning before weather doesn't work favorably with me. Good to catch you live. Thank you so much for coming in. Yeah, and it feels great out here. It's like in the the 60s, low 60s here today, this morning. So it feels great. Crops that I also sold. So I sold a lot of tomatoes, and okra seemed to be like really help. I had some peppers. I'm not getting a whole lot of. I've tried to do like an assortment basket of peppers, sell them separately, so my mild to spicy ones and my sweet ones separate. if I do have peppers or grow more peppers next year, it will be more sweet peppers. I will not grow. I will probably go the same amount of hot, mild, hot to spicy peppers, but peppers really didn't sell that well for me this year. And but I know they are one of those profitable crops everybody talks about. It just didn't do too well for me. Um, let's see. Honey. If you are a bee farmer, gosh, everybody asks for honey. Sold some that I purchased from a local farmer, and then I finally got them to get to the market, so that was exciting. I'm just trying to help them get their distribute their product in more areas, and so I didn't mind doing that. But they finally came to the market, so everybody got to meet the family and buy straight from them. So that was great. So when they were there, I didn't have my product out. I used it more as a display, but when people came by, certain things draw people's eye. But when people came by, I didn't purchase any more from that family because I knew they were going to be at the market. So I just said, go that way. They're right under that big tree, and she has jars, glass jars as well, not just the plastic teddy bears. And they went straight to her and were able to purchase directly from the source. And so, you can work out those kind of things with other farmers too. It's just important to me at this farmers market as a manager to honor the spirit of a farmers market. And so I want farmers, I want local produce and products, value-added products that are grown and that are natural and beautiful and from the ground, from our farmers here in the local area. And so whatever I can do to help people get that, I want to do that. Buying produce from terminals or auctions and then bringing it to the farmers market. I know that's done in more places than we can imagine, at more farmers markets than we can imagine. People do that all the time. And I'm not saying it's wrong or right. I just saying, man, it would just be so dope if we can really invest into our local farmers and support them as much as possible instead of reselling a lot of produce that come from California or, outside of the local area. That's all I'm saying. But whatever, to each his own. So tomatoes were successful. Peppers, all right, but I think I need to grow more sweet. I didn't have a lot of people that were willing to take hot peppers. And then providing combination baskets or such of all these things is something I want to I don't see that a lot in the research that I've done, but having different colored tomatoes is one thing that I did see, and that works pretty well in your baskets or available on your tables. But yeah, I would say those three: tomatoes, okra, collards, and kale seem to be very, very, very much so requested at the farmers market. And that's pretty much all I grew. I grew beans, but I didn't sell those at the market. People come and get them every single year. I have one guy that he's like, I'm coming, and I don't even get a chance to take those to the market. Selling at the farmers market versus selling at a roadside stand, there are pros and cons to that. Maybe I'll do another video because I've done both this year as well, and I've always sold from the house before I went to the market. This year's my first year at the market, so maybe I'll do a video about that some other time. But yeah, the farmers market is a great place to sell your products. You get a lot more foot traffic, I do think, or a lot of foot traffic. It's kind of fun just mingling with the people and learning what they like and what they, and when people see that your product is beautiful and it's locally grown, people eat that up anyway. Buy local, grow local, all those slogans that you hear all the time that are trending a lot recently. They had been for a while, but definitely a lot recently. At the market, there wasn't there's a mix of ethnicities at our market. And so it doesn't look like all one thing or everybody selling the same thing. We had someone selling microgreens, and that's something I'm gonna dab my toe into this winter. So stay tuned to that journey. Um, and but yeah, I just feel like definitely tomatoes sold. Um, Consider selling more green tomatoes, maybe in your area, to see if people like it. Here again, they would rather have a green tomato than a ripe tomato. So anyway, I know it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but that's what I had this year. I had tomatoes, peppers, okra, beans that I didn't get to take to the market. They didn't even make it there, because somebody ate them up. Cucumbers, and honey. And I think that's it, y'all. I think that's all I grew. But just I grew different varieties, so it may not seem like a whole lot, but I definitely grew different varieties. Our market started in August, so when I grew my root vegetables, they didn't make it to the end, so I was already pulling them out to plant the late spring to summer crops. So I grew radish and beets and carrots, and onions, but those and onions could be taken too. I didn't grow a lot of onions this year, but I will grow more of those next year to take to the market. Onions do pretty well here all season, so that's something I'll probably do. But my root vegetables I did not get to take to the market. Those had to just be sold on the roadside stand or in my house. Okay, but root vegetables, carrots, I'm definitely gonna do a lot of carrots for next season, and our market should be starting earlier in the year next season, so I'll get some experience about the root vegetables and I'll tell you about that. But yeah, so I hope everybody is doing well, and you all have a great rest of your day. It's early, I know, but it's a beautiful day here. I'm gonna get to work in this garden and put this mask back on my face because my allergies are jacked up. Okay, I mean, just whew. But the weather is cooler. The hubby is home this week, so I can get some work done, and I'm excited about that. Just trying to clear out walk pathways so we can walk through this place, right? The garden is so overgrown, but it's still producing, and that's exciting to see this late in the summer, in the season. But I'll probably start ripping stuff out mid-October, and laying every bed to rest. I'm not going to grow this winter, except for a few fall crops. I got some lettuces, different varieties of greens, a little bit growing in those elevated raised bed that I have. If you haven't seen that video, check it out. But that's it, I think, for the winter. Working on building more infrastructure. So my plan is to expand over to the north side of my house. I have a faucet over there, and so that's going to be the water source, and I have a few rain barrels that I can hook up over there to water that space. But I really want to expand the garden, and get my flower garden started, and so stay tuned for that. But the rest of the fall is going to be about cleanup, considering doing some cover crops, but I just don't know how I feel about doing them in raised beds, even though I know that's something that can help regenerate the soil over the winter time. I might just plant root vegetables instead, in some of these beds, depending. I try to be a little bit more cautious of planting more beans and things, bush beans and stuff in the beds too, to help fix nitrogen in the soil and things like that throughout the season. But anyway, I'm kind of off topic, but thank you all so much for watching, and I'll holler at you very, very soon. Bye.